What makes Howl's moving castle so enchanting and perplexing? No one has ever walked away from this cinematic masterpiece and felt confident that they knew what was going on. Why is this? I'm here today to explore the magic of Howl's moving castle, its unexpected beginnings, complex and confusing lessons and themes that once you understand, you will never view the movie in the same way again. Growing up, my favorite Studio Ghibli film was Spirited Away. I had it on DVD and I thought it was so cool, but I had no idea that there was this huge, rich catalog of other Studio Ghibli films. As an adult, I watched Howl's Moving Castle at the suggestion of a friend, and my initial reaction was, well, I guess I have a new favorite Studio Ghibli film. A couple of weeks ago, I was brainstorming about what to make my next video on, and my sister suggested Howl's Moving Castle, and it felt like a eureka moment. There are so many things to talk about with this movie. Little did I know truly what an iceberg I was getting myself into. When I first conceptualized the idea for this video, I knew first and foremost I needed to watch the film again, refresh my memory. I watched it unblinkingly, taking notes along the way, and then when the end credits rolled, I thought to myself, you did it! Now just watch some interviews, write your script, and voila! Just like Howl's magic, you're gonna have a next video. Oh, how wrong I was. As soon as the movie came to an end, I began some surface level research, and I quickly learned that the movie was based on a book. I was so surprised to learn that it was not only based on a children's novel, but it wasn't written by a Japanese author. No, it was written by a British woman. With the cryptic and guessing nature of understanding the themes and lessons within the movie, I knew instantly I had to read the book before I could even scratch the surface of knowledge to make an informed video. I set out on a quest to find the book at my local Barnes & Noble. I checked online the next morning and it was in stock. My husband and I walked the entire store before giving up and finding an employee to help, and he was kind enough to show us that we had walked past it 3 times already. 429 pages in 4 days, and now I'm here to tell you I am so glad I decided to read the book. I understand the movie on such a deeper level, and also it's just such a great read. I was a little concerned when I saw that the book was in the children's sections, but I would say the reading level is about on par with Hunger Games or Harry Potter. It's by no means boring or too simple for an adult to enjoy. Along my journey of research, I also invested time in interviews with the author of the book, Diana Jones, and the film's director, Miyazaki. I also purchased the companion art book that contains many interviews with Miyazaki and other people from Studio Ghibli. In this video, I will do my best to fit all of the information I've gathered in so you and I together can gain a much deeper understanding of this beloved movie. Book versus movie. There are many small differences between the book and the movie. As I've listed them out and studied them, the majority can be explained away simply by changes that were made to make the story more clear, concise, and digestible, and to tell the story through a visual medium rather than a written one. These changes include things like the witch's curse in the book is delivered through a poem. Nearly every part of that poem is in the symbol that burns onto the table when Howl speaks to Sophie and asks her, "What is in your pocket?" The poem reads as follows: "Go and catch a falling star. Get with child a mandrake root. Tell me where all past years are, or who cleft the devil's foot. Teach me to hear the mermaids singing, or keep off and be stinging, and find what wind serves to advance an honest mind." Nearly everything, apart from the mermaids, is present in this symbol. When I first noticed the symbols on the curse matching up to the poem, I thought it was so cool. The symbol is only on screen for a short time, and you really have to be paying attention to notice. A major difference in the film is the character consolidation. The main villain of the book is in fact the Witch of the Waste. The palace sorceress is instead named Mrs. Pentstemon, and she was once also Howl's teacher and looks upon him fondly and does not mean him harm. This character from the book is combined with the wizard Solomon to create the sorceress Solomon in the movie. 2 other characters from the book were also consolidated into one. These are 2 missing people in the book, Prince Justin and the wizard Solomon. However, in the movie, only the prince is missing. In the book, there is a long introduction about Sophie's family and her beginnings in the first chapter, which seems to have been eliminated for time, but still appears to be true in the movie. Sophie's mother dies young, and her father remarries her stepmother Fanny. Her father passes away when she's nearly through with high school. Due to fear of financial ruin, her stepmother sent all 3 daughters out on apprenticeships. Her sister Letty to the bakery, her sister Martha to a spellcaster, which is why she says she's going to see her sister when she begins walking out of town after being cursed in the film. I think she was still looking for her sister's help, and Sophie stays behind with an apprenticeship at the hat shop. The Scarecrow is perceived as an enemy for most of the book. Sophie is terrified of him until the last chapter of the book, where she's persuaded to allow him into the castle. I rather like the choice Studio Ghibli made to make him a friendly companion that fits into their ragtag family of misfits. In the book, the dog is one of the Witch of the Wast's henchmen, who she curses to be a dog because he made her angry. Now, in the film, the dog comes from Solomon, but if you look closely, he looks suspiciously like her henchman. He even has bangs and little orange boots, just like they do. In the book, Michael is a teenager. Howl took him in as an orphan because his parents passed away and no one would take him. Howl came home one day and found Michael on his doorstep and took him in as his apprentice. In the film, he has been renamed to Markle and portrayed as being much younger than in the book. This could be because Miyazaki enjoys animating children and he always includes them in his films. He has said many times in interviews that he makes his films about children for children. Otherwise, there would have been none in the film. His roles in the film and the movie are very similar, nearly identical. He manages the various shops and affairs for Howl while he's away, and he's studying to learn magic. He even has a disguising cloak that gives him the appearance of an old man with a beard in the book too. Michael's name was changed to Markle due to the Japanese language not having a direct translation and spelling for the name Michael. It comes out to be more like Maikaru. I really like this name change because I think it sounds more medieval and cool. It also has a very fitting meaning, with a mixed meaning of from Mars and to gleam. This name is so enchanting. I couldn't think of a more fitting name and meaning for the Wizard's Apprentice. Those are some of the small differences when adapting the novel to film, but there are some very stark differences too, including Howl is a jerk and a womanizer in the book. Rather than being aloof as he is in the movie, he's just plain contrary and difficult in the book. He is often called a slither outer. He doesn't answer questions when asked and intentionally makes others' lives more difficult for his own amusement. Several various love plots are also left out of the film, but in the novel, Howl is pursuing women constantly, and it further serves his vanity. Howl does not transform into a bird creature in the novel. I think that was added as a means to achieve flight in the film and give Howl a way to interact with the airships. Miyazaki has said in interviews he loves flight and he tries to incorporate it whenever possible into his films. I believe Howl is specifically a crow-type bird on purpose. Not only are crows oftentimes the symbol of death and darkness, casting a negative light on the war and fighting, the creature that Howl transforms into is similar to a creature in Japanese folklore called the Kerasu Tengu or Kotengu, and their greatest weakness, much like Howl, is overconfidence. There is no war in the book. It's only mentioned once in reference to why the king is desperate to find his brother Prince Justin, as he is an excellent general and there's a threat of war on the horizon. I will touch more on why war was added to be such a big theme in the film later in the video. Another small change in the movie is that the prince comes from the opposing side of the war. In the book, he's from Ingri, the country where Howl and Sophie are from. Time travel is added in the movie, in my opinion, just as a storytelling mechanism. Some theorize that Howl's ring shining at the beginning of the movie indicates that he was looking for Sophie and the ring was guiding his way, as when she goes into his childhood, she says, "Find me in the future." I disagree with this. I think it's just in reference to him being in front of the portal waiting for her when she comes back to present time. In my opinion, the time traveling sequence is just a cool visual way for Calcifer to show her Howl's past, to help her figure out how to break Howl and Calcifer's contract. In the book, Sophie learns how to break the contract little by little and learns about Howl's childhood slowly through different sources, and this just would have been more difficult to do in the medium of film and constantly would have interrupted the story. I have saved my personal favorite difference for last. When I read this for the first time in the book, my jaw hit the floor. I was not ready for this difference. In the book, the adventures take place in a fantasy realm and the country they're in is called Ingri, just like in the movie. But you find out more than halfway through the book, Howl is from Earth, specifically Wales. Yes, Wales. He played rugby in school, drives a car, and has a college degree. In the book, the Black Door leads back to his hometown in Wales. That really threw me for a loop. But if you think about it, if he's not going through the door for war, as in the film, where would the Black Door lead? Interestingly enough, apparently, the director Miyazaki enjoys Wales and has visited it often, and he uses the Western architecture as inspiration in his films. The author of the book, Diana Jones, is from Wales as well. War and pacifism. Miyazaki grew up during a time of great war and immense struggle within Japan. He was born in 1941, right in the middle of World War II. He recounts a formative memory of his father and him escaping a firebombing in the back of a truck and tragically leaving behind a woman and their child who were begging for help. His father ran a factory that made airplane parts for the war, and his family profited greatly from this, becoming wealthy and allowing Miyazaki to attend prestigious schools and have a comfortable life. Due to this upbringing, Miyazaki is very anti-war and has a pacifist mindset. However, he adores warplanes and flying. He says he tries to incorporate flying into every one of his movies. Prior to Howl's Moving Castle, Miyazaki's most recent success was Spirited Away, which was released in 2001 and won an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. However, Miyazaki refused to attend the 75th Academy Awards in 2003 in protest of the United States due to the Iraq War, later stating, "I didn't want to visit the country that was bombing Iraq." He did not publicly express this opinion until 2009. When approaching his new project, Howl's Moving Castle, as further protest of America's bombing in Iraq, he set out to intentionally alienate American audiences and make the movie more dreamlike and difficult to understand as a protest of traditional Hollywood movie plots. He added the anti-war message and fighting war scenes to further send the message to American audiences. He was quoted as saying, "I can also say with considerable confidence that any movies I make in the future will never be big hits in the United States. Around the time of the Iraq War, I even made a slightly conscious effort to create a film that wouldn't be very successful in the United States." In the original book, Howl's Moving Castle, war is mentioned a grand total of 1 time in the 429 pages. It's mentioned as a looming possibility on the horizon as well, not an inevitability as it is in the film. Miyazaki said, "I did not deliberately try to deliver any educational ideologies or messages to the audience. If they really exist in my works, they're only revealing themselves naturally. Many people think that I'm telling a very deep truth. Actually, what I like is simplicity. The reason that we made Howl's Moving Castle is there are too many unhappy matters in the world, such as wars and economic crises. We hope that through the movie, people can keep up their courage and see the hope. The future world is still nice and beautiful. It is worthy for us to survive and explore it." I personally find this hard to believe in regards specifically to Howl's Moving Castle, with the timing of the protest and the messages he sent about making a conscious effort to make the films less successful in America. That being said, it's not that much of a complex message. War is bad. Miyazaki has often gone against Hollywood norms and refuses to adopt weak, family-friendly American-style storytelling just for the sake of increased box office numbers in the US. He has often been quoted as having a distaste of Disney-style narratives. The simple messages he wishes to convey in his films are much more important to him than an American success and fame. Another indicator of how seriously Miyazaki takes that message in his films is when working with American producer Harvey Weinstein, yes, that Harvey Weinstein, to bring Princess Mononoke to the US, it was rumored that Miyazaki sent him a katana with the message attached, "No cuts." Years later, in a 2005 interview, Miyazaki confirmed that this did indeed happen, but it was his producer that sent it, not him. He said while laughing, "Actually, my producer did that. Although I did go to New York and meet with this man, Harvey Weinstein, and he was bombarded with an aggressive attack of all these demands for cuts. He smiled and said, 'I defeated him.'" This goes to show that along with his already unique stance and anti-Hollywood production establishment views, combined with his disgust for the Iraq War and his calculated, conscious effort to create a film that wouldn't be very successful in the United States, the lengths that Miyazaki is willing to go to preserve the integrity of his films and the messages he wants to convey. Sophie is a witch. In the book, Sophie's magical powers are revealed halfway through when Howl brings her to the palace to see his teacher. During the scene, she explains to Sophie that she has her own latent magical powers, and that her walking stick has practically become a magic wand with how much she had spoken to it. Later on, it's revealed that her power specifically is the ability to talk things to life, which is why she was the only one that was able to return Howl's heart to him and ensure that it would continue to work. Examples are explicitly given, like her talking to hats. Whatever she says to the hat while sewing it will come true, making some women more popular, or in the case of her stepmother Fanny, she speaks to the hat while sewing it, "You will have to marry money, won't you?" And sure enough, when we see Fanny later in the book and the film, she's remarried someone filthy rich. An interesting example of her magic skills are also imposing the curse on herself in the book. In the book, it's revealed that part of the reason that no one can break Sophie's curse is her continuously speaking her curse into being, making it work by saying things like, "I'm just a useless old woman." You may be thinking, this clearly isn't true in the movie, but I think it is. There are so many small moments in the film that if you look at them through this lens, she could be using magic. Moments like when the Witch of the Waste turns her into an old woman. She walks to the mirror and says to herself, "You've got to stay calm. This is just a bad dream." Then she's able to calmly walk to bed without an outburst or so much of a single tear about the situation. When Sophie unintentionally rescues Turnip Head from the bushes and she asks him if he knows a place for her to stay, and then moments later, he has brought her to the castle. The impressive way that Sophie convinces Calcifer to help her cook, and even Howl comments on how difficult that feat really is. When furiously cleaning the house, she says, "These little outbursts seem to be giving me some energy," and then she looks younger shortly after, while sitting in the meadow, bringing herself youth and energy with her own words. When Howl has a meltdown about his hair changing color, Sophie storms out and says, "You think you've got it bad? I've never been beautiful in my entire life." She goes outside crying in the rain and looks much younger when Turnip Head comes to give her an umbrella. This moment seems as if she was imagining herself how she's been her entire life so strongly that she reverts her age for a brief moment. When Sophie and Markle are shopping in Market Shipping and the crowd gathers around the harbor and the destroyed battleship, she sees the witch's henchmen in the harbor and wonders aloud to herself why she is the only one who can see these slimy men. Before leaving the palace to meet the king, she says, "I'm sure this will never work," and it all goes to pot. Once at the palace, she cheers the witch on at the top of the steps and says, "Pull yourself together. Isn't this what you've been waiting for?" And the witch miraculously makes it all the way up the steps. Then, when fleeing the palace, as Howl begins to transform into a bird, Sophie yells, "No, Howl, it's a trap," and he snaps out of it and they escape. She implores Calcifer to move the house and keep Howl from protecting it. He says that he can't, so she removes him from the castle and it collapses. She begs Calcifer to move the castle and says, "I've never seen a fire demon with more spark." She makes a deal with him, giving her her ponytail, as if casting a spell. Calcifer changes colors and grows stronger to move the castle. The only other time we see him behave in this way is when Howl uses powerful magic on him to move to the hat shop. The best blaze brightest when circumstances are at their worst. Sounds like encouragement, but could have easily been another spell to encourage Calcifer. After the Granny Witch nearly kills everyone by stealing Howl's heart and hangs onto it for dear life, Sophie approaches her gently and implores the witch to give her the heart, and she hands it over too easily. The most obvious scene to portray her magic is the scene when Sophie puts Howl's heart back. She also casts a spell. She says, "Calcifer, live 1,000 years and Howl's heart be restored." In the book, it's similar, and in similar fashion, she asks Calcifer, "If I break your contract, will it kill you?" Calcifer says, "It would if anyone else broke it. That's why I asked you to do it. I could tell that you can talk life into things." The spells Sophie says are, "Well then, have another 1,000 years to Calcifer, and get in there and work," when shoving Howl's heart back into his chest. Knowing all of this, it's also confirmed by Calcifer asking Sophie for help to break his curse, because he can tell that she has magic abilities. All of these moments add up, and with it being canon in the book, I'm inclined to believe that Sophie has magic abilities in the film as well. Miyazaki is also known for his movies having powerful heroine characters rather than heroes, so I think it's likely that he would have wanted her to be powerful, more powerful than she knew. Howl knows it's Sophie from the very beginning. This is a tricky one to break down, but it really changes the way you view the story knowing this. In the book, it's explicitly stated that everyone has known that Grandma Sophie is indeed Sophie Hatter from the hat shop the majority of the time she's been living at the castle. They've all been secretly trying to help her break her curse. However, in the film, it's clearly not the case. But upon my third watch this week, I'm able to say with 100% certainty, Howl knows who she is from their very first interaction. Howl enters the castle to find Sophie cooking breakfast, and they eat together at the table. While eating, he says, "What's that in your pocket?" leading to a curse coming from the Witch of the Waste, and it burns into the table. This gives Howl the knowledge that Sophie has had a run-in with the witch, and in my opinion, he in that moment, or perhaps before, knows that Sophie needs his help and allows her to stay in the castle. If that doesn't convince you, at the end of Sophie's very first day in the castle, the day she spends furiously cleaning, he looks in on her sleeping and sees her looking young, just the way that she was when they interacted on May Day at the beginning of the movie. Howl sends her to Solomon in his stead in the film. When Sophie initially asks him to go visit the king and tell him that he won't be able to help, Howl sighs and says, "You don't understand," and seems to be not interested in the idea. Then he suddenly bursts out of bed with excitement when he has the idea for Sophie going in his place. He is also very excited about the idea of Sophie meeting Solomon. This is confirmed in the book as being intentional in hopes that Sophie can get advice to break her curse from a powerful sorceress. Understanding that Howl knows it's Sophie Hatter from the beginning puts a new spin on his devotion and protection of her, and how he truly goes above and beyond to help her break her curse. The power of love. The first time I watched Howl's Moving Castle, I immediately searched something along the lines of, why does Sophie get younger sometimes? When watching, I couldn't quite place it. I knew there had to be some meaning behind it, and it couldn't possibly just be random. I was so astonished by the answer that I got at the time, and it continues to be such a lovely thing to think of. The answer was, her age changes depending on how in love with Howl she is, and that's why it's ever changing throughout the film, because falling in love isn't constant, it ebbs and flows. Then the curse breaks completely at the end, and she's back to her younger self when she finds true love. Some things in the movie substantiate that theory, that her curse will only be broken by true love. Sophie becomes so young when speaking to the sorceress, Mrs. Solomon, about Howl, and Solomon says, "Oh, now I see you're in love with Howl," indicating that love is the cure for the curse. The Witch of the Waste says to Sophie when she's being tucked into bed at the hat shop, "You're in love." She pauses, and then after Sophie looks at her confused, she says, sighing away like that. I think that the example she gives of sighing is a cover, because Sophie is noticeably younger in this scene. I think the witch is commenting on her appearance when saying she's in love. Sophie's younger appearance throughout the movie is when she's feeling love, and is the most constant in the end of the movie when her feelings of love and protecting Howl are the greatest, and she takes big risks and sacrifices her own safety to save him. As beautiful as that answer is, the more research I've done and the deeper I've dived into the novel and the movie, I've come up with one more theory that I'd like to add on to this idea to make it whole. I'd like to propose the theory for why Sophie's curse cannot be lifted until the end of the film. How can you love someone with no heart? I think it's no coincidence that it's not until Sophie returns Howl's heart to him that her curse is able to be broken, because true love is reciprocated, and you're not able to love someone fully without a heart. I think when Howl gets his heart back, he's able to reciprocate Sophie's feelings completely, and this is what breaks her curse. This quote from the author of the book, Diana Jones, sums it up perfectly. If you love somebody enough, all sorts of extraordinary things start to happen in your surroundings as well. And you can achieve great things even if the world is falling apart around you. If you love people and things enough, sensational things happen. The story is one of loving others above yourself and fighting for what you believe in, even in the face of adversity. Well, there you have it. All the reasons I believe make Howl's Moving Castle magical. Truly, this movie is like lightning in a bottle. I don't think anyone could ever capture the feeling that comes along with it, but I've tried to express why I think it's so special and why trying to understand it on a deeper level can be so confusing. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe. I'm just starting out, and every subscriber helps me towards meeting my goals. If you've made it this far in the video, I really appreciate your time, and I hope you do something today that makes you happy. See you later. Bye.